On the first long cruise after COVID in March 2022 on Holland America's Veendam, I met Bill and Ginger. I interviewed Bill to hear about their 44 years experience of cruising. Okay, Bill, when did you start cruising and why did you start cruising?
Oh, well, we started in 1978, and why was because a retired Air Force colonel we knew said, "Bill, we're going to go on a cruise. We want you to come with us." I said, "Okay, why not?" And being ex-Navy myself, I thought, what in the world do I want to go on a cruise ship for? I didn't know they had ships like that. Anyway, all the way from Seattle to Aruba, way down south. So we spent the night in Miami and then flew down the next day to catch the SS Veendam with Holland America Line. And it was only a 600-foot ship and there was only 600 people, which made it nice. And we got very attached and thought, this is really nice, and it started a new way of life for us.
So, Bill, what other cruise line and cruise ship did you experience from the beginning?
Well, after the Veendam experience, we waited maybe close to a year, and we went again on a Caribbean cruise on the Song of Norway. And thought that was another interesting line. We wanted to try them all and get our feet wet with everybody. And that was another small ship. But in that day and age, they were good-sized ships. But soon after, then we tried the Nordic Prince, which is a sister ship to it. And we loved it as well. So from there on to NCL. I had to try a Norwegian. Yeah, from the NCL, we ended up going over to Princess and tried a few cruises there. And then went back to Holland America, and we're on the SS Statendam and the Rotterdam. And then came the MS ships, the motor ships, no more steam. But that was the Holland America's New Amsterdam and Noordam. They came out in '83 and '84, and beautiful ships, wonderful ships. Mm. Yeah, when we were venturing from ship to ship, it was amazing to see the different amenities on the ships. But starting out, of course, it was a room without phones, without television. You made your own fun. You played your own games, and you just got out and mixed and mingled with the people. Everybody dressed, the dress code back then was more formal than today's loose standards. And people were happy to dress up. And some ships, in the early days, we had, you were given a handful of these streamers. So when you had disembarkation from the pier, we threw these paper streamers in the water and like you used to see on the old newsreels. And that was fun. But it got to be a problem for all the harbor masters to clean up the harbor, so they don't do it anymore. You go to the lounge or the main stage where they had beautiful shows, singers and dancers, as they do today, but today is much more elaborate. In those days, they had low ceilings. They didn't have the big grand stage productions they have now. But it was very good entertainment.
You also said something about the room keys now and then.
Oh yeah, I remember getting on to, well, there were two ships that stand out. One was the SS Rotterdam, known as the Rot 5. They had room keys with a ball and a key on a chain. The ball was slightly larger than a golf ball, but you leave your room, you had this thing dangling from your pocket. And so whenever you left the ship, you hung it up on a keyboard after you wandered out and you're going ashore.
Like a hotel then?
Like a hotel, because you weren't going to pack this big old thing with you.
And they could know who left the ship and come back.
That's right. They know who was gone and when they got back.
And all about the communication today in cruise ship, we see it's everybody, even if we have an old people in among the passengers, they sit with their smartphones and have contact with their even if we are out in the middle of the Pacific. But that at that time there was
nothing. No, if you got an emergency call, which I did one time, you had a Radio Shack, and the navigation officer put you in a booth, and every time you talked to someone, said over, and the other person would talk, and when they're done talking, they would say over, and the radio officer would flip a switch, and you could converse. But it was kind of funny. You felt like you're in a soundproof padded booth.
What about the food on the ships? Has that evolved, or is that different from when you start cruising?
Yes, I would say in the buffet lines are much larger and more inclusive. So many more things now. They had them back then, but they were small lines. It didn't take but 10, 15 feet and you were through the line. That was it. But you had the same thing, but smaller quantities and smaller amounts. So.
And no special restaurants?
No, not in the beginning. It was later on the ships put in specialty restaurants.
Okay, you said something about travel hosting. You did that sometime during your cruise career.
Yes, we did. It's kind of funny the way that started. We were 25 years into cruising already when our travel agent said, we need some travel hosts, and you guys have the experience already. You don't need to be trained. And said, come on board with us and we'll give you a free cruise. All you got to do is take care of these folks on a trip. I says, okay, how many folks are we looking at? And my wife Ginger and I, we took care of anywhere from 27 people to 300 people by ourselves. And believe it or not, the smaller the crowd, the harder it was to handle. Picky people sometimes. It just never ends.
Complaining.
Oh, sometimes they can, just to see if the squeaky wheel is going to get some grease. But lots of fun times and good stories and lots of interesting people we met along the way.
And when was that? In the 80s, 90s?
That was from 05 to 15. For 10 years we did that. And we have many different scenarios there to go into, where we had, in our group, we had airlifts and medevacs, and we had to deal with people getting off because.
Thank you very much, Bill, for sharing your vast cruise experience. I will also take the opportunity to thank Dwayne and Oscar for our interesting morning discussions on the Veendam cruise.